Hello guys, and welcome back to another science video. This time we are going to be talking about food chains. So let's review very quick about what did you guys learn. So food chain is a transfer of food energy between organisms in an ecosystem. So we were talking about what is an ecosystem. First of all, if we divide the word ecosystem, eco means what? Environment, very good. And system is different parts that work together. So it's a system of different parts that work together in their environment. So an ecosystem is a community of animals and plants interacting with their environment. Remember when we were talking about interactions. Interaction is when a living thing interacts with a non-living thing, or when they are working together in order to survive. So for example, when a plant is drinking water, the plant is a biotic factor because it's a living thing and is interacting with the water. It's drinking water in order to get hydrated. The water is a biotic factor. It's one abiotic factor. Why? Because it's a non-living thing. For example, when a bird eats a worm to get energy, the bird and the worms are two biotic factors, two living things. They're interacting. They're working together. In this case, the bird eats the worm in order to survive, in order to get energy. So it's very important to talk about how the energy flows in an ecosystem. So that's why we were talking about the food chains. The food chains is how the energy flows, or how the energy is transferred from the sun to producers, consumers, and decomposers. So first of all, in the presentation we have the sun right here, because the sun is the main source of energy in every single organism, in each single ecosystem. Without the sun, the planet cannot sustain life by itself. Our planet needs the energy from the sun in order to sustain the life. So the sun is going to give energy to the producers. Producers are living organisms that are able to create or produce their own food. Which organisms are producers? The plants. Plants can produce their own food using sunlight, carbon dioxide, and water. That process is called photosynthesis. So the plants are going to pass or transfer the energy to the consumers. Consumers are animals that need to eat another organism because they cannot produce their own food. So in the consumers, we have herbivores, right? It's, for example, the rabbit is a herbivore, only eat plants. So the herbivore, the rabbit is a consumer because it needs to eat the plant in order to get energy. And the hawk is another consumer that needs to eat another animal in order to get its energy. So the consumers are gonna pass or transfer their energy to the decomposers. So the decomposers are living things that get energy by breaking down dead organisms and animal waste into simple substances. And something very important about the decomposer is that they are going to return the nutrients back to the soil. So the decomposers are going to decompose dead animals, but they can decompose plants as well. So they are the ones that are in charge to decompose the dead organic matter. So now we're going to be talking about the different groups of consumer. Remember that they are called consumers because they need to eat another organism in order to get its energy. So the first group of consumers are the herbivores. Herbivores are the animals or organisms that they eat only plants. They get their food or their energy by the decomposers or eating decomposers. So for example, the zebra is a herbivore. The deers are herbivores, and the panda bears are herbivores as well because they eat only plants. The second group of consumers are the carnivores. The carnivores are the organisms that only eat meat or animals that eat another animals. For example, the eagle, snakes, and the tiger. They are carnivores because they need to eat another animal. For example, a frog. The frogs, they eat insects. A frog can eat a bee, a honeybee, or a fly, or a butterfly. So they are insects, but even with that, the frog is considered a carnivore because it's an animal that eats another animal. The third group of consumers are the omnivores. Omnivores are animals that can eat both plants or animals. For example, a mouse is omnivore because the mouse can eat insects or they can eat fruits and seeds. The raccoon is another omnivore, and chickens are omnivores. Can you think about another organism that is an omnivore? For example, pigs are omnivores as well. And most of the bears, they are omnivores as well. So now we're going to be working with food chains, and we're going to be classifying the different organisms in a food chain according with their diet. So the sun is very important to include the sun because, as we say, the sun is the main source of energy. Remember that the arrows are going to represent the direction in which the energy is going to be transferred. Which organism or which element is going to give energy to the next level. So the sun is going to give energy to the plants, and plants are called producers because they can produce their own food. And the plants are going to give energy to which organism? Well, for example, a bee. And the bee can transfer the energy to a frog, and the frog can transfer the energy to a worm when it's died. So these three organisms that we have here in our food chains are called consumers because they need to eat another organism in order to get its energy. So let's start with the bee. So we can classify the bee as a primary consumer because it's an animal that eats only plants. And primary consumers obviously are herbivores. So we can call them primary consumers or herbivores. The frog is a secondary consumer because it can eat another animal, or secondary consumers are animals that eat herbivores. In this case, we have the frog, or we can call the secondary consumers carnivores. It's an animal that eats another animal. And the last one is the worm. They are special consumers, but they are called decomposer. They are the ones in charge to break down the dead organic matter. So let's practice with our second food chain. We're going to start with the main source of energy that is going to transfer the energy to the plants through the process of photosynthesis using sunlight, carbon dioxide, and water. So plants are producers, and the producers are going to transfer the energy to herbivores, or to another a consumer that is called herbivore. So these two organisms are consumers. So the grasshopper is a primary consumer or herbivore, and the raccoon is a secondary consumer or omnivore. Remember, a raccoon can get energy either from the grasshopper, or the raccoon is going to eat the fruits from plants. So that's why the omnivore is a consumer. But which kind of consumer? Omnivore. Bueno chicos, gracias por ver el video sobre ecosistemas y las cadenas alimentarias. Espero que lo hayan disfrutado. Cualquier preguntita lo pueden dejar en los comentarios. Así que hasta la próxima en el próximo video. Que la pasen bien.